The sky over Barcelona that morning was clear, a perfect canvas for a routine flight. Germanwings Flight 9525, an Airbus A320, prepared for its journey to Düsseldorf. 150 souls were aboard that day, all expecting normalcy, a quiet trip over the European continent. What they were about to encounter was not turbulence, not mechanical failure, but a silent, deliberate act of absolute horror, orchestrated from the very front of the aircraft. Captain Patrick Sondenheimer was an experienced pilot, a father, a professional who knew the routes well. Alongside him sat First Officer Andreas Lubitz. Lubitz was young, ambitious, seemingly polite, and held a professional facade that masked a terrifying secret. A sickness of the mind that was about to hijack the fate of everyone on board. The takeoff was smooth. The ascent was routine. For the first 30 minutes, the flight operated exactly as expected. The banter captured by the cockpit voice recorder, the CVR, was lighthearted, professional. Sondenheimer discussed approach procedures. Lubitz responded appropriately. Everything was normal, until the moment of the handoff. Around 10:30 a.m. local time, the Airbus reached its cruising altitude of 38,000 feet. The captain, needing a biological break, stated his intention to leave the flight deck. The sound of a chair sliding back. A brief exchange of confirmation. The reassuring click of the reinforced cockpit door closing. And then, silence. The captain was gone. Only Andreas Lubitz remained. The moment the door was sealed, Lubitz began the irreversible sequence. He reached down and adjusted the altitude monitor. He did not change it to a standard lower level. He input a descent to 100 feet. He activated the descent, smoothly, quietly. The plane began to fall. Air traffic control in Marseille soon noticed the anomaly. The aircraft had dropped 1,000 feet in just 60 seconds, without declaring an emergency or seeking clearance. Controllers attempted contact. They called the flight number repeatedly. Germanwings 9525, report your status. Germanwings 9525. Confirm descent clearance. Only silence answered them. A chilling, unbroken silence from the cockpit. Outside that armored door, Captain Sondenheimer realized what was happening. He had been locked out. He spoke into the cabin intercom, calm at first, but his voice soon rising with alarm. "Andreas, open the damn door." He began to input the secret code, the emergency code designed to bypass the automated lock. But Lubitz had anticipated this. He had manually overridden the system, ensuring that the code, the final safety net, was useless. The door remained sealed, an impenetrable barrier between the professional pilot and the deliberate killer now flying the plane. The CVR painted the most horrifying picture of those final minutes. It captured the steady mechanical hum of the descent mechanism, a soundtrack of impending doom. It captured Sondenheimer's mounting panic. His initial requests turned into frantic commands, then desperate pleas. The captain pounded on the door. He used his fist, then perhaps something harder, metallic. The sound was recorded as a powerful, repeated thudding, a desperate, futile attempt to shatter the unbreakable seal. Lubitz, meanwhile, remained utterly silent. The investigators would later analyze the audio obsessively, searching for any sign of a struggle, a gasp, an admission of guilt, anything to explain the madness. They heard only the breathing of the pilot. Lubitz's breathing was steady, calm, normal. He was not struggling. He was executing. He was listening to the terror unfolding just inches away from him. As the plane plunged further, the external sounds became deafening. The blare of the master caution alarm filled the cockpit, a shrieking warning of the rapid descent. "Terrain," the automated voice warned. "Pull up, pull up." Below them, the majestic, unforgiving peaks of the French Alps rushed into view. Inside the cabin, the passengers began to realize the horror of their situation. The angle of the descent, the sustained, high-pitched alarms. The screams began, distant at first, captured faintly through the cockpit door, but quickly rising into a collective, absolute howl of terror. The captain was outside the door, likely shouting a final desperate warning, perhaps trying to comfort the flight attendants who were now fully aware of the death plummet. The recordings confirm he tried one final drastic measure, a loud grinding sound of metal against metal, an attempt perhaps to breach the door with an emergency axe or heavy object. But the door held. Lubitz said nothing. The only sound from him remained his steady, unhurried breathing. The final CVR moments are too horrific to fully comprehend. The sound of the screams intensified, merging with the continuous alarm of the terrain warnings. The plane was traveling at over 400 miles per hour. Then, at 10:41 a.m., a sound that defies description. A scraping noise, the sound of the tip of a wing clipping the mountainside. And then, an immediate, deafening silence. The flight ended abruptly in a pulverized chaos, high in the remote peaks, taking 150 lives with it. The investigation that followed was unprecedented. Initial speculation centered on a terrorist plot or catastrophic mechanical failure, but the black box data revealed the cold, calculated truth. The flight controls were manipulated manually, repeatedly, deliberately, by the person authorized to fly the plane. Andreas Lubitz was found to have a history of severe depression and suicidal ideation. He had consulted dozens of doctors, concealing his mental state from his employers, forging sick notes, and continuing to fulfill his duties while harboring a desire for self-destruction. He had decided that if he was going down, he would not go down alone. He chose to turn his workplace into a mass grave. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the global aviation industry. It shattered the comfortable assumption that pilots, the ultimate guardians of life in the air, were always reliable. The response was swift and mandated change. The European Aviation Safety Agency and airlines across the world implemented the rule of two. Going forward, there must always be two authorized personnel in the cockpit at all times. If one pilot needs to leave, a flight attendant must enter immediately to ensure that no single person can lock the door and take control of the aircraft's fate. The tragedy of Germanwings 9525 is a story of terrifying isolation, a hidden sickness, and the vulnerability of technological safeguards against human malice. It remains a grim reminder that sometimes the greatest threat in the sky is not found in the mechanics of the machine, but in the silence of the man controlling the controls. The silence of Andreas Lubitz, punctuated only by the cries of the doomed, echoes still as one of aviation's most chilling acts of betrayal.